2022 season predictions episode. Who will win the Super Bowl in 2022? MVP, division winners, wild cards, offensive, defensive players of the year, rookies of the year, coming up right now.
NFL analyst Brian Peacock and former NFL scout Matt Williamson bring you expert NFL analysis every day in less than 30 minutes. Get an inside look into the NFL on the field and in the front office. With elite breakdowns, next-level analysis, and in-depth information only for the real NFL fans. This is Peacock and Williamson, and it starts now.
Welcome to the Peacock and Williamson NFL show. Brian Peacock and Matt Williamson with you, as always, at BD Peacock, at Williamson NFL. Thanks for making this show your first listen every day here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. That is what we do at Locked On. Today's episode of Peacock and Williamson is brought to you by PrizePicks. PrizePicks is daily fantasy made easy. Pick 2 to 5 players, and if they score more or less than their prize pick projections, you can win up to 10 times your money on your entry. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with promo code Locked On. That's PrizePicks.com, promo code Locked On. All right, the season is upon us. It is NFL football week. In just a short couple of days, we will have Thursday night football to kick everything off. And Matt, we've got to make our predictions. We've got to put it out there. Who's going to win these divisions? Who will be the Super Bowl teams? Who are going to be the MVPs? Who are going to be the most valuable players for this 2022 marathon? And I guess we got to start with divisions, right?
Sure. Real quick, though, I mean, I'm super psyched. I did some Labor Day things with fam and whatnot and recovered from a rough weekend, but did plenty of work yesterday as well. But I spent all morning today on Tuesday writing about, reading about, listening, researching head-to-head matchups coming up. How much fun is that? I mean, this team's playing this team and how they're going to block Aaron Donald and all that good stuff, specific stuff to games. I'm fired up.
Yeah, Bills-Rams is going to be a lot of fun. And when it comes to the AFC East, I don't know how you can't project the Buffalo Bills to win that.
Yeah. I think it's that easy. We could talk about, is Miami making strides? Are the Jets, taking that step forward? Do they have their quarterback? Maybe Miami and New England could be very much in the playoff hunt. We'll talk wild cards. But I think this one's kind of a slam dunk. You just have to take the Bills right now as we sit here on September 6th.
And we'll see if the Jets take that next step. 3 through 4 in that division, or 2 through 4 in that division, could be a lot of fun. And maybe one of the teams battle with the Bills for the top spot. But just projecting it out, I mean, you're kind of crazy if you go with anybody but the Bills right now.
Yeah, it's a pretty distinct gap between number 2 and the Bills to me.
Overall talent, quarterback, like all the important things, it just leans in favor of the Buffalo Bills. They got some good pieces on defense as well. AFC North, much more difficult, maybe the most difficult. I don't know, the AFC is tough. Like, if you even figured out these wild card teams was difficult. But in the AFC North, Matt, who do you have? Are you going to be a homer and take your Pittsburgh team to win the North in 2022?
I don't think the Steelers season will be a disaster and they'll be very relevant till the end, but I very much think this is going to be a dogfight between Bengals and Ravens. Might go down to week 18, tiebreakers. I'm taking the birdies, though. Give me Baltimore.
I love Baltimore this year. Last year it was the Cincinnati Bengals that won the division. I think there's a big turnaround happening for the Baltimore Ravens. And even with the most disastrous of injury circumstances for the Baltimore Ravens last year, they were still an 8-9 team. So they didn't fall off the mat or anything like that. And so, a couple wins here and there, and it's a healthy season from Lamar Jackson. And he's angling for a new contract too, in the $50 million plus per year range, probably. I like the Ravens, and I don't want to be playing against the Ravens this year, even though I think the Bengals got better too. And so it's a 2-team race for me at the top. But I'm going to lean with the Baltimore Ravens as well. So we both agree on the first 2 divisions here.
I think that's as bad as it gets for Baltimore. And like you said, they still won 8 games. I think there's nowhere to go but up.
And a better roster than we talk about with the New England Patriots under Bill Belichick.
Yeah.
And again, it's like they still won 10 games last year, and they're probably going to do it again. It's so hard for me to say, they're going to fight with the Bills for the top spot in the division. So, those are 2 teams you should never count out.
No doubt.
The AFC South, it was the 1 seed in the AFC, Tennessee Titans last year. Nobody else made the playoffs. Are you sticking with the Titans, or are you picking a new winner in the South this year?
No, I'm very down on the Titans, to be honest with you. I think it could go so far as by week 14 or so, Malik Willis gets a shot, and they start looking towards the future. What's Willis to Burks looks like, things like that. I don't think the Colts are a Super Bowl contender, but it would kind of blow me away if they don't win this division.
The Colts did lose their defensive coordinator, which isn't great. If you told me there was going to be a 100% healthy season for Derrick Henry, which is hard to say for a running back, and he did start to break down last year with some injuries, I would say I would be more confident with the Tennessee Titans, but Harold Landry now done for the year. I just don't like the vibe for the Titans. I don't think they are. I think they played above their head last year, and I think the Colts played below what they should have been playing. And with Matt Ryan there now, I still have more confidence top to bottom in the Colts. So I am going to give the edge to the Indianapolis Colts as well. We got to disagree on some of these pretty soon here.
We might soon.
AFC West might be that division because this is the powerhouse division in the NFL this year. It was won by the Kansas City Chiefs with a 12-5 record in 2021.
You can make a case for all four. I mean, I think the Raiders are fourth, but they got into the playoffs last year. They're better now than they were then. Denver's super exciting. I am a huge Chargers believer, but I'm sticking with the incumbents here. I mean, Andy Reid, this is what it came down to for me, is they're going to play differently in Kansas City. The trust factor with Mahomes and Reid is almost Brady Belichick-like at this point. And Reid's dominance over this division in head-to-head matchups, I think, gets him in the first spot. I
am going another direction with the AFC West, and I am going to go worst to first for the Denver Broncos.
Nice.
The more I look at this team and how complete they are, they're going to be able to run the ball. They're going to be able to play defense as they already have, even though things might look a little bit different with the new coaching staff there. But going from, and we've seen, like, Drew Lock couldn't even beat out Geno Smith, right?
No, right. Bridgewater's like their best guy lately.
Yeah, they're going from that to Russell Wilson. So I'm big on Russell Wilson and the Denver Broncos this year. There's weapons to throw to for Russell Wilson, and give me the Denver Broncos worst to first in 2022 in the AFC West.
I can see it.
Let's move on to the NFC. Those division champions, or do you want to go wild cards in the AFC?
Yeah, actually, let's wrap up the AFC.
Let's do that.
Unless you want to go to break. All right.
Okay. Your 3 wild cards in the AFC, Matt.
I should have said this, much like Bengals Ravens. I think Chargers Chiefs goes down to the wire. I'm going to have the Chargers as my first wild card, the Bengals as my 2, and your Denver Broncos as my 3, which is a very good football team, could win the Super Bowl. Denver's defense worries me. I think everyone just looks at them and goes, oh, their defense has been great. Well, Fangio's gone. Von Miller's gone. I think they're going to win shootouts.
There's going to be a lot of shootouts, I think.
Oh, yeah.
For sure. And it's hard to bet against any of these other teams. And I'm going to firmly place Brandon Staley on the hot seat and say that just because of how competitive this is all going to be and teams beating up on each other, I don't have the Chargers making the playoffs.
Wow.
And it shocks me because I like the Chargers and I like a lot of what's going on. And they got better, and they could go nuts this year and be the 1 seed in the AFC. And that's what's so fun about this. But I'm going to go Kansas City Chiefs as a wild card team. I'm going to say no wild card in the South. I'm going to give the wild card spot to the Bengals, and I'm going to have a dark horse wild card in the Miami Dolphins.
I like it. Yeah, I could see that. I like it.
All right. I'm glad you like it, Matt.
Staley's seat would be hot.
That would be probably because you could win 9-10 games. They won 9 games last year to make the playoffs.
That could happen again. Yeah,
you have a good season and still be on the outside looking in. As long as it's not a bunch of 4th downs, I think he would be safe. But he could potentially just get fired, and not even hot seated at that point.
Possibly
playoffs. Like, it depends on what the how it looks, what the circumstances are. Like, injuries could be big with any of these teams, especially when you got a superstar quarterback like in the AFC West too. Okay, NFC next. MVPs, offensive, defensive players of the year, and rookies of the year next. But first, we got to let the folks know about PrizePicks. Super simple. Daily fantasy sports. You don't have to wait until Thursday. You don't have to wait until Sundays to play your fantasy football. You can play daily fantasy sports, no matter the sport, every single day of the week if you want at PrizePicks. And it's really easy. You're not playing sharks. You're not playing a big pool of players that you don't know who they are. You're taking on the PrizePick projections, and you are deciding if you want to go over or under those projections at PrizePicks. All you do is you pick. Super easy. You pick 2 to 5 players, and if they score more or less than their PrizePick projection, you can win up to 10 times your money on any entry. PrizePicks offers projections on any sport that you watch. And I'm serious when I talk about any sport. Of course, NFL, NBA, Major League Baseball, PGA golf, but there's disc golf and cricket and college sports and tennis, motorsports, combat sports, esports, and a ton more at prizepicks.com. Entries can be made in 60 seconds or less. It's super easy. It's safe and fast with withdrawals at any time as well, when you can pull those fun winnings. Download the PrizePicks app. Go to prizepicks.com to sign up to play daily fantasy sports. Couldn't be easier. Couldn't be more fun. First-time users can receive a 100% deposit match as well, up to $100 with our promo code Locked On. If you deposit $100, PrizePicks will give you $100. If you deposit $50, PrizePicks will give you $50, but you got to use our promo code Locked On at sign up. Promo code Locked On for an instant deposit match up to $100 at PrizePicks. Okay, Matt, moving on to the NFC here. What are we looking at for division champions starting in the NFC East? The Dallas Cowboys at 12-5 last year. Do you have them repeating?
I am very confident to pick the Eagles. I think they are going to be a really tough team to play against, especially in the regular season.
So similarly to the AFC for me, I'm going to do it with the NFC, the teams with the best off seasons. And we've seen it time and time again. Winning the off season doesn't mean you win the regular season. So that's why I had the Chargers on the outside looking in. I still want to see it. With the Philadelphia Eagles, I still want to see it. How much more does Jalen Hurts have in him? And I like the team. I like the way they're built up front on both sides of the ball. But edge rush, I'm not so sure if it's going to be dynamic there in Philly. I'm not sure if Jalen Hurts is going to facilitate his playmakers on offense enough for that offense to be super dynamic. I think they're going to be a good football team. They could absolutely win it, but I'm going to go back to back with the Dallas Cowboys fading right now, and I'm going to bet on Dak.
I mean, the Dak factor in that division is just massive. That gives me some pause. I mean, having the best the quarterback by a wide margin scares me to bet against the Cowboys. The
easiest division in all of football might be, we talked about the AFC East and the Buffalo Bills, but I think this one's even easier with the Green Bay Packers to win that division yet again in the North.
I agree. I mean, it might take them a month or so to figure out the passing game, but I still think that's plenty. And there's plenty of time left to get it right and dominate the division.
I think we might end up pretty chalky here with some of the division winners here, because
maybe not.
With how good some teams could be in the South, can they compete with Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? As long as there's not a catastrophic injury, I still got to go Tampa Bay here at the top of the South.
I'm picking the Saints, not just to be a hot take-ish. I'm a Saints believer. I love their defense. They always play the Bucs really, really tight. If they could win both those matchups, that would go a long way for, obviously tiebreakers and whatnot. I'm just not loving the old and injury mojo in Tampa right now.
The offensive line does worry me.
Yeah.
That worries me quite a bit. But then
when's Godwin going to get right? And, that kind
I
of
like
thing.
Julio, though. I think Julio plus Godwin equals you one healthy Pro Bowl wide receiver for the whole season.
It's a good way to look at it.
You know what I mean? So I'm not worried about Godwin as much, because I like Julio to start. And then, when Godwin comes back, I like that situation. I just don't like pressure up the middle on Tom Brady.
Right.
I'll take pressure up the middle on Tom Brady over no pressure on Jameis Winston.
I hear you. I'm more of a Winston guy than you are.
Yeah, you have been. You've been consistent on that, man.
I have.
And in the NFC West, the Los Angeles Rams, reigning Super Bowl champions. They won the division last year at 12-5. Do you have a Rams repeat, Matt?
I do. I don't think it's a lock. I mean, I think you're counting on a rebuilt offensive line without any brand name guys, and your brand name guys better stay healthy. They always seem to do for the Rams, but I'm not going to bet on injuries here. So yeah, I think they're the best team in the division.
And I think the Cardinals, Seahawks got worse. Seahawks for sure got worse. The 49ers, you just don't know that the 49ers could be a juggernaut with young Trey Lance, but with young quarterbacks, you have no idea how that's going to go. They do have Jimmy Garoppolo, so the floor was raised a little bit, but there's just so much unknown about what that's going to look like, even though the 49ers defense, I think, could be one of the tops in the league. Right now, knowing that everyone's healthy, I got to go Los Angeles Rams. But if Stafford's arm starts barking at him, if Aaron Donald gets hurt, that could go south quickly, I think, for the Rams. But right now, got to say Rams win the West.
Yeah, I hear you there. All
right, so 3 wild card teams in the NFC, Matt, to go with. You had the Eagles, the Packers, the Saints, and the Rams.
So I am going to put the Bucs in as the first wild card. I'm going to put your Niners in. I mean, even if Lance struggles, I think they'll manufacture wins on the ground, defense, pass rush, Shanahan, all those good things. This one's got, it seems like Dallas is the slam dunk, and I'm torn between them and the Vikes. I'm going to take Minnesota. I think Minnesota's pretty good on both sides of the ball. I don't see a lot of holes with the Vikes, and we'll get to them with some award stuff later too.
I have it projected out to be so much like last year, too, because remember last year it was the 49ers and the Saints and the Eagles. They're all battling for those wild card spots. I think it could be a lot of that again. And I got the Niners and the Eagles and the Saints winning those wild card
Niners,
spots.
Eagles, Saints.
Okay. I'm not as high. I know the Vikings have kind of been the sneaky team for a lot of analysts, I've heard, especially just recently and making picks. I don't see with the Vikings. I think they could be better, but I don't know what they did to make themselves so much better than last year. It's a new coaching staff. If they have to just start hot, and you have to believe that Mike Zimmer was terrible for that team. Like I just don't see how the Vikings are so much better. I just think they're going to be that 8-9, 9-8 team, and still, even with a good season, they could be fine. I just don't see them taking some big leap. But who knows? Maybe Kevin O'Connell's that guy for them, and they've got a lot more wins in the tank.
Yeah, I've said this several times on this show that not all these coaching hires are going to be upgrades, and Minnesota's one that I fear isn't. But I also think they were hit really hard by injuries. Daniel Hunter, guys like that too, that then they're always competitive. One bounce here or there could get him in that wild card spot.
How much better can Kirk Cousins play than he already has too? That's one of the things.
That's what he is.
Where's this? Is this ceiling they're going to break through on offense? Because I love some of the players they have, but they're not going to be more dynamic in the passing game. It might go to targeted different guys. I mean, it's even hard to project a young player like Justin Jefferson to do more than he already has, because he's already done so much. So that's why I just don't know where the ceiling is. I just don't think they're going to break through some new level, but I could be wrong.
I can see you. Yeah. I mean, they've been right in the middle of the road for a while now.
Okay, Matt, who are your Super Bowl teams then? We've got the AFC and the NFC playoff teams. Who's going to win the gauntlet and face off in the Super Bowl?
This is going to sound chalky, but I gave it a lot of thought, and I was really torn with Bills or Chiefs in the AFC. Just the trust factor is superb and supreme. I think Allen gets Mahomes on this one when they battle it out in the AFC Championship and advance and win the Super Bowl. I know that's chalky. An hour ago, I was going to pick the Eagles, but I don't think Hurts can outduel Stafford, Brady, Rodgers 2 or 3 games in a row, and in the playoffs. And we saw some of that last year. I was tempted to make a splash with the Saints, but I'm going to take the Packers. I just think Rodgers starts slow, like I said, and by December or so, they're running the ball really well. They're playing defense, and Rodgers is just carrying the passing game.
I thought you were going to be a little bit more down on the Packers. But yeah, I have the Packers too. And I think I'm picking the 2 teams. I'm thinking more of like a betting mindset. I'm picking the 2 teams I think have the easiest path to having a bye in the playoffs. And I think to me, it might be the Packers and the Bills this year. And I think Josh Allen gets by Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs this year. And I'm going to go with the Packers and the Buffalo Bills facing off in the Super Bowl.
Who's the winner? I got the Bills. I'm shocked at the same teams.
I think Rodgers rides off into the sunset finally gets his. Even without Devontae Adams, they're going to find their playmakers and their pass catchers on offense, and maybe it even helps diversify the passing game a little bit, knowing that he doesn't have Devontae Adams that he can just throw the ball to at any moment. And so it's all about the development of those young players and who steps up for them at the end of the season. But like you said, they could start slow and get a lot better towards the end of the year there with their young pass catchers.
I know he's a quirky, strange, odd dude, whatever, but I would like to see that because I think that would finally solidify Rodgers as one of the top 3, 4, 2 quarterbacks ever, with one more ring.
And I will say, just the vibe of Aaron Rodgers coming into camp last year, there was a lot of weirdness, and he looked kind of skinny and straggly and was like spending a lot of times eating mushrooms in the mountains. It looked like
sure, right.
He came in with a tank top and like looked a little bit beefier and like a little bit more like, okay, you guys don't believe in me. Watch this. That's the vibe I got from Aaron Rodgers.
Such the mentality.
Yeah. Okay. Individual awards next, Matt. We've got league MVP. We've got offensive, defensive players of the year. We've got rookies of the year coming up next. I do want to thank everybody once again. Thank you for making Peacock and Williamson your first listen every day. For your second listen, go check out the Ultimate Pro Football Preview 2022, an 8-episode extravaganza to get you ready for the NFL season. The local team experts of the Locked On Podcast Network, plus a betting angle from Lee Sterling of Locked On Bets, all combining into one Ultimate NFL Preview. Search for the Ultimate Pro Football Preview 2022 on your Odyssey app, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. Okay, league MVPs. We know who the good teams are going to be projected by you and I, Matt. So which of those players are going to go out and win an MVP award in 2022?
Remember, these are voted on after the regular season. Doesn't matter what you do in the postseason. So I had Allen beating Mahomes, but I'm having Mahomes beat Allen for the MVP. And I do think if what I said was true about the Chiefs winning that division, everyone will look at Mahomes like, wow, he did it without Tyreek, much more so than Rodgers winning his division without Adams, that the credit will go to Mahomes. He changed the way he played. He dumped it down a little more. He matured, but you still saw the awesome throws. I'm going with Patty.
I like it. And if it's time for Patrick Mahomes to just be, and everyone already knows how good he is, but
right.
This will be the year after losing someone like Tyreek. If they go out and they're, a 1 seed in the AFC, I don't know how Patrick Mahomes doesn't win that award. But I had the Denver Broncos winning the West. I'm going to say that Russell Wilson finally gets his and does win that MVP award and puts a full season of those numbers together and gets so much credit in the turnaround for the Denver Broncos that it is. And they fall short in the playoffs because I did have the Bills winning in the AFC, but Russell Wilson, regular season MVP in 2022.
Wow. That'll go a long way to solidifying his legacy as well.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Let's go defensive player of the year, Matt.
Donald's too boring. I'm sorry. I'm just not going to do it. I'm not even going to go Watt or Garrett. I'm going off the grid here, and I am taking Derwin James. I think they did enough at defensive tackle that they can protect him a little. I think they did enough at corner and other spots that he's just going to be the Palomalu. Just sometimes he's blitzing, sometimes he's covering a tight end, and the season ends and he's got 6 sacks and 5 interceptions and a big play every week. Is just that queen on the chessboard type guy. They just gave him money, and we look at him and go, wow, he's right there with like Watt and Garrett in terms of great defensive players.
I'm going to go a little homer here, Matt. So you might guess who I picked for my defensive player of the year. Yeah. I could see the 49ers offense with Trey Lance having some ups and downs, but one thing that will be significant and consistent for the 49ers getting them to the playoffs is their defense, and it's led by Nick Bosa. And I think Nick Bosa this year, last year he was coming off a torn ACL. So this year it's going to be Nick Bosa with a healthy offseason going into that echelon of players where you're talking about maybe a 20 sack season. From great to like, oh no, this guy's just one of the best game records in the NFL, and he's going to be on the level of Watt and Garrett, and kind of behind Donald on the Mount Rushmore of current NFL defensive linemen. Nick Bosa, defensive player of the year.
I like it, and he's hitting his prime, kind of like Derwin too. Like they've been around the block, they know how this game's played, and I've predicted, just like you said, that I think after this season, all the analysts will say, Garrett, Bosa, or Watt, 33, 33, 33. You know what I mean? Like, they're all the same.
Yeah, and there won't be any doubt anymore who's better between him and his brother. And his brother's really good too, but there's really an extra bit of juice for Nick, and I think he shows that this year.
I see it.
Offensive rookie of the year, or offensive player of the year.
Player of the year.
Yeah, I mean,
see, I'm not going to take a quarterback here because I think this award's dumb, and they should say offensive player of the year that's not a quarterback.
Non-quarterback, basically, because is there ever going to be an MVP that's not a quarterback ever again?
Probably. Right. And I bit my tongue a little bit about 10 minutes ago because I'm going to take Justin Jefferson. I don't know if he can do more, but if they throw the ball 8% more, well, he'll probably end up with 150 more yards or whatever it is, and he always gets 1,400 anyway. If I'm not taking a quarterback, none of the running backs jump off the page to me. I think Kupp takes a small step back. Sure, it could be Jamar Chase or whomever. I just think Jefferson is consistent.
I love that one. That one's really good because he doesn't have to do that much more. He just has to have a little bit more, touchdown luck, more red zone action, and he's going to be used in Cooper Kupp role now. And as good as Cooper Kupp is, Justin Jefferson's better. So if he gets that sort of a target share, there could be a little bit more there with Justin Jefferson. So that is a really good one. I'm going to go with a team that we both projected to win a division in the AFC South, and that is Jonathan Taylor. If he's healthy again, the numbers he's already put up, because I think one of the things with an award like this is you have to already be a known quantity. So last year, he kind of burst onto the scene of like, oh my gosh, this guy's amazing. And then you back that up again with another one. So I'm going to go Jonathan Taylor. Wins a lot of leagues for your fantasy football purposes. I was going to say Christian McCaffrey because I just drafted him in a fantasy league over the weekend with hopes that he's going to stay healthy for a year, but I don't know if that's going to happen. So I'll go Jonathan Taylor.
Good one.
Rookies of the year, Matt. This is our last category, right? Yeah, offensive and defensive rookies of the year in 2022. Let's start with the offensive side of the ball, Matt. Who you got?
I think offense is brutal this year because there's not going to be a week one starting quarterback. It almost always goes to a quarterback or running back. I mean, Breece Hall looks like the bell cow, but there's even doubt about that. So I think it's a great year for a receiver to win it. Part of me wants to take Pickens, but I'm not sure he'll even be out there in two receiver sets. A guy like Olave could be big, but I'm going with Drake London. Just catches a ton of balls, is a bright spot for a terrible team. And he's a keeper, in a down year.
You remind me of Drake London. One of the players I'd thought about for offensive player of the year was Kyle Pitts, too.
Yeah. I almost did, too. They just won't win enough games.
Yeah, they won't win enough games. He could go absolutely insane this year, though. And is there enough balls for everybody? And they have a similar style almost, too. I guess I shouldn't say that because Drake London's a better route runner, even though he's not a supreme athlete.
Sure.
He's better a route runner than you can't, calling him a tight end, that's not really fair to him. And he's a really good player. And they might be throwing from behind a lot. So who knows? Maybe there is that type of, volume to go around for whoever's throwing them the ball, whether
some
it's
cheap yards late, right.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. I'm actually going to go with, you said there's no quarterback's going to play enough. I'm actually going to go with the quarterback. I'm going to go with Kenny Pickett because I think he's going to play for the Steelers. I think he's going to end up getting put in there.
I know how much you love Mitch.
Well, yeah, because I don't think Mitch Trubisky's a nice story in the offseason. And then once you start seeing playing some games, I think at some point they're going to realize, okay, we're not going to be a playoff team this year. Let's go to the rookie. And I loved what I saw from him in some of the preseason games, which might have made it seem like he's closer than he was. You saw him more practice, so maybe they are going to.
No, he looks good. He's really come along.
Yeah. The whole thing with Kenny Pickett is he was more ready to go. He was more pro ready. So if he's more pro ready and he's older, and the guy that you have at quarterback isn't your future and isn't winning you games, go to the young player. So Kenny Pickett to George Pickens. That'll be fun down the stretch, even though it's not going to start the season. So I'm going to say Pickett does get in there.
I like it. We're up against it. I'm doing Hutchinson as my defensive guy. I expect double-digit sacks. I think he's the real deal. I don't think he's Bosa, Garrett, Watt, but I think he'll be the best defensive rookie easily.
I think it's going to be hard for him not to win the award. He has to not be good for him not to win the award. I haven't heard enough juice from Kayvon Thibodeau over the course of the offseason. So for that one, I think it's Hutchinson's award to lose.
Probably.
Thanks everybody for making Peacock and Williamson for your first listen. Make sure you're checking out everything else the network has to offer. Your team is covered right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. The Ultimate Season Preview as well. Check it out. Matt and I back tomorrow. Peacock and Williamson.